Hi, my name is Jason Stepp with Stepp Manufacturing, and today we're going to go over the safe operations of this STPH 4.0 that's located behind us. This particular unit happens to be a truck or a hook-mounted unit. Obviously, I don't have the truck with us, but I'm going to show you the operations and how everything works on it. And I kind of like to start at the front of the machine and work our way back. I'm going to start up here in the front. Obviously, your hook is located up here. You'll have a set of drop legs for when you're in the storage position. You use that drop leg. Right behind the hook legs, we have our air compressor. That's located right here inside this cabinet. You don't really need to do anything inside the cabinet other than come in and do your service, things like that for your air compressor. It's a 25 CFM reciprocating style compressor. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy. There's a blowout wand in the back of the machine that operates, the air compressor operates. Right above that, we've got our hydraulic valve located. Our hydraulic valve up here is a force attlefold valve. You'll see in the inside cover we have a print that shows that valve and what each function does. Each one of the dinders will also be labeled with what that does also, so if you ever have to do any service, you know which valve you're working on. Super reliable valves. We've had really good luck with them. We've used them for many years. This valve incorporates our pressure relief for the system. It also, obviously, each section, as you can see, there's sections. That's why they call it an attlefold style valve. Each one of those sections operates a different hydraulic function on the unit. You'll notice that there's manual levers in here. All of the valves are operated from the control box, but there's manual operators in the case that for some reason that electrical side of the system fails. You still can open the doors, run the augers, whatever you need to do by operating the manual lever, excuse me. Pretty self-explanatory. If for some reason the first time you fill it up, you go to start the auger and it doesn't run, don't panic. It's just probably a minor hydraulic adjustment. To adjust the valve sections, you'll need a wrench and a set of Allen wrenches. You crack the jam nut loose and you just turn that pressure up a little bit. Takes about 2,700 psi. I think the relief is set at 28, but it takes about 2,700 to start that auger, especially the first thing in the morning. Once it's turning, it takes very little pressure to operate, but it takes a lot of torque to get it to start. So if for some reason it doesn't start, you just need to up that relief pressure. There's two pressure reliefs on the system, one on your pump that's on the truck side of it, and one that's on the valve side of it. Again, this is something that you probably won't ever have to deal with. But I always do explain it during the training just in case you do. So again, that hydraulic system's been widely used in the snow and ice industry. We've used it for almost 30 years. It's just a really good, well-built hydraulic system. From there, I'm going to move back a little bit. It's a little bit hard. You probably can't see this on the camera, but in between the cabinet, or the front of the hopper and the cabinets here, you'll see a blue and gray operator. That blue and gray operator is actually our operating valve to allow heat transfer oil to circulate through our tack tank. So this is a diesel-fired, oil-jacketed box. The main hopper is oil-jacketed, so it's built kind of like a boiler. So we have our inner tank that holds the material. We have our oil jacket, so it's a tank filled with heat transfer oil. Our burner flue goes through that oil, and then we have our insulation and then our outer jacket. But that burner fires through that tube that's located in the bottom of the hopper, bottom of the oil jacket, and that heats our oil up. Our oil then heats our product. So it's built just like a boiler. We're using the burner to heat the oil's heating our product. So with that, it gives you a very smooth, even heating system. So when we go to heat our tack tank up, and the reason we're talking about that first is just because it's on this side of the unit, we're just working our way back. Our tack oil usually needs much less heat than our hopper does. So instead of having its own separate burner system, we run two hydraulic lines in a coil that goes through the bottom of the tank and then returns back to the hopper. So when we call for heat, when the thermostat says, hey, my tack oil is a little cold, I need some heat, this air-operated ball valve, the operator here, the gray and blue valve, will open, allow oil to circulate through there, and then back to tank. When it comes up to temperature, it's going to shut that off. So if you hear that air valve operating, that's what's happening, is we're allowing oil to circulate or we're shutting the oil off. The tack tank is an 80-gallon tack tank. On the tack tank there is a dipstick. And it's easy to look at when it's not on the truck, but we do have a vent and a drain. So if you ever need to drain it or clean it out, which at the end of the season I recommend that you do, depending on what type of tackle oil, you may need to do that a couple times during the season. Water-based emulsions, if that's what you're using, make sure that you're using it up. Don't store it for long periods of time. And when I say long periods of time, water-based emulsions, you have about 60 to 90 days from the day it was made to using it up. So buy what you need, use it. When you're done, empty it out. If the unit's going to get put in storage for a long time, make sure that you're draining that oil out. You do not want to leave tackle oil in there for long periods of time. The other thing you can't do is you can't boil it and you can't freeze it. So those are two things that with your tackle oil, if you're using a water-based emulsion, you need to know and understand that. Next thing I'm going to talk about is the pumping system for the Tack Tank. These are equipped with a Viking F pump. It's just a little small gear pump. That pump, located right here, does a couple things. Obviously, it allows you to spray through the wand, but it's also used in aiding flushing the pumping system. Very simple system to use. There's two valves. You have one that's flush or product. Pretty self-explanatory there. Do you want to spray product or do you want to spray flush? When you want to spray product, you put the valve down in product, and then you have this other valve which we call a WPC valve, which stands for wand pressure control. The wand pressure control does just exactly that. It supplies you the pressure, more or less, to the hose so that you get a nice fan pattern. If you need a little bit more pressure, you turn the valve up a little bit. You need a little less, you turn it down. It also acts as a relief valve. So when I shut the handle off on the wand, like it is now, for spraying, and I shut it off, that excess product, instead of just deadheading in there, now goes back to tank. So it recirculates back to tank. This valve you'll want somewhere in the middle all the time. The only time we're going to be all the way into the wand position is when we're doing our clean out, and we'll go over that in just a minute. So again, somewhere in the middle. Usually it's about 5 to 7, depending on what type of oil you're spraying. That'll control your pressure. So when I'm done for the end of the night, this is probably the most important part of this, and this is what everyone always gets nervous about, is making sure that we clean the product, clean that hose out. When we're done with it for the night, we're going to put our pump in neutral, switch is in the control box, we're going to put our pump in neutral, we're going to change our product valve to flush. We're then going to go all the way to the wand position, take our wand out, and we have to spray it into a bucket or a pail or somewhere where we can dispose of it. Then we're going to go turn our pump back on, open up our handle, and we're going to run that product through there until we see the flush solvent come through. Again, very simple, easy to operate. It's set up to recirculate back to tank so that you can do that. Alright, now that we've went over the Tack Tank and how that system works, again, it's an 80-gallon Tack Tank. You can see it's easy to access that from the back here. It's got a hose reel on it. You pull that out. We're the only ones that allow you to recirculate through the wand. When you do flush it out, I do tell the guys, pull the nozzle out. It just flushes faster, goes quicker when you do that. I do recommend that you have a couple of extra nozzles in case you get a chunk of tar or something plugged in one of those nozzles. You can change that. The other thing I didn't talk about is your flush solvent tank is here. It's actually located underneath here, but your fill is right here. You're going to want to put some type of an asphalt solvent in there that will cut that asphalt. There's lots of different products out there to do that. The Tack Tank is also equipped with electric overnight heat. We're going to go over the heating system here in just a little bit. I want to go over a couple of things on the back end of this unit. It's got a shovel cleaning compartment. Take a look at this now because this is the cleanest it'll ever be. Again, you're going to put some solvent in here. Those are going to ride right in here. On the back here you can see we've got 4 different tool holders for your lutes, rakes, shovels, anything with a handle. The guys just put the spades in here for the spade and the moil point for the jackhammer, which will also. Right behind the shovel cleaning compartment we have a spoils bin. This is designed to shovel any crap that you have in the hole. If you got a little leftover mix, you can put that in here. It's got a trap door on the bottom to dump that. Alright, we're going to talk about the back end here because this is the shovel, the work end. This is what the machine's really here to do, is deliver some hot mix or cold mix in the winter. We auger that out through a 6-inch auger. That auger trough is heated. The auger is made out of 6-inch lighting, 3/8 thick AR400. Excuse me. The trough is also made out of AR400. Now this particular unit has two options for the pan, or for the shoveling and discharge end of the machine. The standard pan is this big pan on the bottom. That's great when you're doing some potholing, chasing small potholes. You can get a couple guys working out of the back end of it. Works pretty good. You also ordered the optional swing chute, which is nice if you're doing trenching. You're gonna have to pick one or the other. So they're both bolted on here for shipping, but they won't. Neither one of them work while they're both on here. So you'll have to decide: do I want the chute? Do I want the pan? Both of them have multiple mounting options, so you can raise or lower them up according to your desire. I'd hook it up and put it on the truck before you adjust that to get your heights just right. But you're going to have to pick either the swing chute or the pan. The pan does fold up, and you'll see there's locks on the sides here, and latch in the up position. By doing that to the ground without shoveling on the pan. So if you have a large cutout, you fold that pan up, lock it up, and that mix is going to drop through the back end, which is open, and dump that material right directly onto the ground. The other thing we're going to go over right now, on the back here you've got a dual hydraulic hose reel. That's for your hydraulic jackhammer. In front of that we have our compactor plate carrier. This is folded down, and our water tank. Now obviously once we get this unit up on the truck, it's going to be a little bit higher, quite a bit higher actually. Everything looks really low. Well, it is when it's not on the truck. Once we get that on the truck, you're going to see it's quite a bit higher. So this has got a hydraulic lift in it that folds down. There's a pin lock on the side, so when you lift it up, I suggest you use the pin lock. Then it's secured. It's got places to strap or chain your plate tamper down. You've got a water tank, so you can fill your tamper right there. So there's some nice options there for you guys. I'm going to zoom in on the control box here, because we're going to go over that next, guys. Actually, before we do that, couple of things. You've got your air blowout wand, which still had some air left in it. You've got your wash down wand, and also your hand torch. All of those have hose reels located on the side there. All right, we're going to zoom in on the control box so you can kind of see that, and we're going to go over that next. All right, so next we're going to go over the control box options. So your main power switch is going to light up your control box, obviously, because it's not hooked to the truck right now. Nothing will light up here. The next two things you'll see is there's two resetting breakers, self-resetting breakers. So there's no fuses in the system, so if for some reason there's a wire short or something in there, it's going to pop those breakers. The next option you have, or the next switch you have here, is a wash down or heating. When you turn on the wash down, that's going to fire up that wand, or that fuel pump for that wand. When you do that, it's going to shut all of your burner functions off, so it won't allow your burner to fire while the wash down is on. So as soon as you're done using it, make sure you flip it back on. That'll kick the burner on. As soon as you turn the power switch on too, you'll also hear the circulating pump turn on. There's a circulating pump that circulates the oil throughout the hopper and through the two middle baffles that are filled with oil. So that's going to circulate that for you. Other switches in here, your hydraulic controls. You can see it's pretty self-explanatory. You got hydraulic top doors, open and close. You will hear an alarm come on when you do run that. It's a momentary switch, so do make sure that you check each side before you open and close the doors. The doors are not fast, and there is a hydraulic alarm, so that if you are running that, there is a potential entrapment hazard. Once we get this unit up on a hook truck, it's going to be a much harder thing to do, but you're going to see those doors open, all the way open, and lay alongside the side of the hoppers. Next option is your compactor plate carrier up and down. So again, pretty self-explanatory. That's down here. Your tool circuit. Your tool circuit's going to be your hydraulic jackhammer. So that's going to turn that on. So that's just on and off. I will tell you, the hydraulic tool circuit does build some heat. So use it when you need it. Use it when you're not using it. Make sure you turn it off. Make sure that your hydraulic system on your truck does have an oil cooler. Most systems do. Very few hydraulic systems don't have a hydraulic cooler on them, but use the jackhammer. When you're done, shut it off. Air compressor, you're going to turn that on. That's going to run and cycle and shut off once it's full. Your auger in and out, pretty self-explanatory there. You've got in would be, and it's a momentary on in, and on for out. The only time you'd ever run it in is if for some reason the auger is jammed, which we don't see that very often, but if you have a large rock or something that would get wedged in there, you have the ability to suck it in. If you're using this in super cold weather, some guys will turn it in for just a few seconds to pull that little bit of material out of the outside, especially if we're going across town. You can pull that material back into the hot hopper. The next switch you'll see, it's auger high or hot pump. So this is a 2-speed auger, so the normal, when you're in auger out, it's just going to be in the slow speed, which is about enough for one guy to keep up shoveling. When we go to auger high, it's going to double the speed of the pump, or double the speed of the auger, excuse me, by stealing the flow away from the hot pump. So we're stealing the hydraulic flow and sending that to the auger and doubling the speed of the auger. So if you have a large cutout, need a lot of mix fast, you flip it up in high. Again, when you're done, you want to put that back in hot pump, so that sends that hydraulic flow back to that pump and keeps circulating our oil through the hopper. Our tack pump, forward and reverse, pretty self-explanatory there. The only time you really need reverse is if you have a plugged up tip. You can suck the pressure off the hose, and then your strobe lights on and off. You've got your LED traffic advisor down here, your on off, your right, left, center, and then fast and slow. Pretty self-explanatory on the aero strip. The last thing is your hopper cleaner. So you're going to push that in for a time spray. So this unit's equipped with sprayers inside the hopper. So if you push that, it's going to give you, I believe it's a 15 or 20 second blast of solvent to spray the whole inside of the hopper. When you do have the doors open, make sure that those nozzles are clean and not built up with tar. But that's a nice option. Make sure that the hopper's empty when you do that, because if you hit that hopper spray, it'll spray solvent on top of your mix. The other thing we're going to talk about is the 3 different thermostats. I'm going to talk about the bottom one first because it's the most simple. It's the tack temp. Top temperature is what we're actually reading. Bottom temperature is what our desired temperature is. And you're going to change that desired temperature by going up and down. Again, because the box isn't powered up because it's not on the truck, it won't show you that. But there are 2. Top temperature is what we're reading. Bottom temperature is what we're set. You're going to change your set point by going up with the up and down arrow. The other 3 buttons in the thermostat don't do anything. It's actually for the programming of the thermostat, so they're locked out. But when I have my temperature set, say we set our tack oil at 150 and it's reading 130, so when I hit that, my call for heat light's going to come on. So that means that the thermostat's telling that valve that we talked about, that gray and blue valve up front, to open up and allow oil to circulate through the bottom of the tack tank to heat up. Same thing on our mix temp. We have a transfer oil temp and a mix temp. You're going to set your mix temp on hot mix, usually 300 to 350. Cold mix, depending on what type of cold mix. Like if it's a high performance cold patch, usually 100 to 120 degrees on your set point. Your transfer oil needs to be 25 to 50 degrees hotter, or even up to 100 degrees hotter, depending on how cold it is outside, than your mix temp. So say we're running hot mix, we want it at 300 degrees. We want to run our oil at 350. You could even run up to 400 on that. Max 475 on the oil. Both of those are wired in series to operate the diesel burner. So you can't overheat your mix, but you also can't overheat your oil. So 475 max, you should never have to be that high. Most of the time you're going to be in that 350 to 400 degrees on your oil, 3 to 350 on your mix temp. If we're using a high performance cold mix like a QPR or UPM, 120 degrees on your mix temp, 175 on your oil temp, maybe 200 if it's real cold and windy outside. But you got to have a heat differential, because we're using, again, if you remember, we're using the oil to heat our product, not necessarily the burner. So that's the control box in a nutshell. It's pretty simple, pretty easy to operate. Alright, so now we're over here on the driver's side. I'm going to show you the cabinets here first. You've got your hose reels for your wash down, and your hand torch are located here. Nothing too special back there. Your front one's got a little bit more going on. It's got your solvent. Wash down solvent tank is located here. You've got your 2 pumps, one for your big pump that goes up to your hopper cleaning. The other one is for your hand wand. You'll also see the big heavy cord. This is for the electric overnight heat. The 2 overnight heaters are actually located in the back. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Kind of a unique system. We use the same thermostats to run the electric heat as we do the diesel burner. So when we plug this in, there's a switching relay in here that automatically takes over. And you'll also notice there's a small battery charger that's going to maintain your battery because it's a 12-volt burner and control system on here. We purposely send this cord with no plug on it because every shop's got a little different plug and a little different wiring. In the manual, there is a wiring schematic for that. So when you go to use your overnight heat, you're going to plug it in. You'll have to turn the power switch on in the control box. It'll power that up, and then you set your thermostats according to what you need for overnight. Lots of questions about the overnight heating that I've gotten over the years. Guys ask me, how long can you leave it in there? I usually tell customers that you got about 24 hours. So if we're out patching and this hopper holds 4 cubic yards, about 5.5 tons, say we have 2 ton left, bring it back to the shop, you could plug it in. It'll keep it warm till tomorrow morning. I wouldn't suggest leaving it in there for more than 24 hours because the mix starts to get stiff. It gets hard to work, hard to shovel. It doesn't compact as well. Just because you've kept it at an elevated temperature for so long, you're starting to burn some of the light oil out of it. So you got about 24 hours. We have some customers that will go in the afternoon, fill it up, plug it in so that the night shift, when they get there, because the plants are closed at night, it'll keep it hot without having the diesel burner running. Basically, if the diesel burner is running, the truck needs to be running to maintain that battery. So this is a way you can plug this thing in and keep it warm without having that truck run. All of the cabinet keys are keyed alike. One thing we didn't talk about on the other side was our fold down hopper steps. So when those doors open, they fold up and lay right on the side here. So that allows you the ability to climb up, and get up on top. And there's handles in the inside of the door for you to get also. Be careful because those are hot. So make sure that you've got gloves on because obviously the inside of the box is very hot, but that allows you to get up there and scrape things out, clean it out. A little bit of 5 minutes worth of cleaning every day is that little bit of maintenance is huge. You keep it clean. There's a sensor tube up there for your temperature probe. You want to keep that. You'll see it's a little steel pipe in there that's got our temperature probe in it. You want to keep that from getting built up. Those just fold out, so that you can get up there and use that. The other thing we'll go over, it's got an LP tank. Obviously the LP tank's for the hand torch, only for the hand torch. Right behind the LP tank is located our diesel burner. So our diesel burner does all the work here. This is what's heating that thing up. It's a Beckett forced air diesel burner. It's widely used in our industry. It does have its own fuel tank, which is located up top. That's what the ladder's for, so that you can access that fuel tank. Make sure you fill it up every day because if you run it out, it's just like any other diesel engine or diesel burner. You got to bleed it. You got to get that air out of the line. It is mounted above the burner, so bleeding it's pretty easy. There's a pit cock on the bottom of the burner to bleed that. And we have a very, very good burner maintenance manual that's in your manual. I'll go with your manual. So if you have any maintenance questions or want to know how to bleed it, any of that stuff, it's all in that burner maintenance manual. But that diesel burner fires into that flue. Our exhaust gases then ramp up, go up into the hopper, into the top of the hopper, and actually exit through the top cover. So we're dumping that exhaust heat on top of the mix, so we're preventing that from bridging. I want to talk briefly about what we've got going on here, and these are kind of zip tied in here. They're about to be this one's about to be shipped, but we've got a couple of things. You've got your 9-pin electrical connector. This is for 7 of those wires are for your rear end lights, and then there's 2 for a ground and a power wire to power the burner and the control box. Then you've got your 3 hydraulic lines, the small ones, your load sense, and then you've got a return and a return line and a pressure line. You'll also have an air line that'll plug in. So the air is for that air-operated ball valve that operates the circulating system in the pump. Fire extinguisher, pretty self-explanatory. You've got strobe lights on the top and also on the back. It's a nice Whalen system on there. Great light system. very bright, very durable. We use a lot of the Whelen products, been happy with it. On top here you'll see this big round tank that's actually an expansion tank, and on the other side there is a dipstick up there to check your heat transfer oil. We do recommend that you check it, you should check it weekly, if not weekly, bi-weekly for sure. It's not like motor oil where we're lubricating parts, we're just transferring heat. So if it's a little low, it's not a big deal. If it gets to be really low, what happens is the oil won't expand up and you won't get as much heat transfer into your material. It'll just take longer to heat. You do have quite a bit of oil in here. I think there's about 240 gallons, if I remember right off the top of my head, of oil that we're heating up, so it does take a little bit to get it hot. Once it's hot, it stays hot. You'll see, if we were running hot mix yesterday, you come in, even if you don't plug it in, it'll still probably be 150 degrees in the morning because they're well insulated, and we got a lot of oil that we're transferring those BTUs to. We do recommend that you change the oil biannually or every 1,000 hours on the unit, just to keep that oil fresh and doing what it's supposed to do. There's a drain in the back to do that. There's stuff in the manual that shows you how to service that. The heat transfer oil is nothing overly special. It's just an ISO grade 68 oil or 100 oil. The oil that we use is an AMSOIL product. We've had very good luck with it. It transfers heat well, and actually can go up to 600 degrees on flash points, where in this body we don't really need to, but in some of our other equipment we do. Pretty nice little package that you got here. So again, it's a 4.0. It'll hold 5.5 tons. That's level to the top. After that, if you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call. Our telephone number is right here on the side of the unit. Our website's there. Call your local dealer. He can help you out with any questions that you might have. And we do appreciate your business and thank you for your purchase. And we'll see you soon.